Hello everyone, this is Passive Wrappings. I'm Steven Sarajian, and here today we're with Aaron Wujcik of Wujcik. What is the name of your company?
Well, I call it A Wujcik and his watercolors. That's just a Facebook name that I came up with, but you know, just can say Aaron Wujcik. That's the artist. That's me.
All right, Aaron. Well, where do you operate out of?
My house.
And what town is that located?
I'm in Holbrook.
You're in Holbrook?
Yeah, the lovely town of Holbrook.
So all of your pieces are watercolors?
Yep.
So let's go back, and when is it that you first decided to start painting?
I can go further back and tell you when I decided to start drawing.
Why don't you? Yeah.
Okay, so when I was a child, I just loved to draw. I loved to watch cartoons and things like that. And I just practiced. I traced, and then I got so good at the tracing, I'd look at a picture and copy from the picture. And then after doing that so many times, it just became in the memory. And I can do comic book, cartoon characters like that. And I've just been doing that my whole life. It's just as a hobby.
When would you say that you started doing that?
As a hobby?
Yeah.
No, when I was a kid, like just high school. And then it just got away from me and I did other things. But then, it came back to me, and, I have a child of my own, and one day, he brought home watercolors because he was in preschool and kindergarten. They work with that stuff. So I had some watercolors in front of me, and I figured, why not put these watercolors, why not draw something, put the watercolors on top of it, and see how it comes out. And I really liked that. And then I practiced, and, from a couple years ago to now, I feel like I've, gotten so much better, and I've had people compliment me on it, and now I sell my stuff at craft shows, conventions, comic conventions, and I was in a artist's boutique, and I was selling my stuff out of there. And right now, I have 3 shows coming up. This Saturday, I'm going to ParaCon in Middleborough, the first of its kind paranormal convention in Middleborough at the Middleborough Town Hall. And then
That's on the 22nd?
That's the 24th,
Yes.
Saturday. I hope it's nice because it's an outdoor venue, and I guess Middleborough is one of the most haunted places in Massachusetts. They're doing lectures from some ghost hunters from the Sci-Fi Channel, other paranormal researchers and whatnot will be there. And so I lump myself into that. And of course, it wouldn't be a craft fair convention without Scentsy and LuLaRoe. Mm-hmm. So, but anyway, I'm excited about them. I'm really excited about that. And then next month, I'm doing Northeast Comic Con at the Hanover Mall. And me and my son just discovered that a couple years ago. We were going to Super Mega Fest in Marlboro and Framingham because Boston Comic Con is just way too expensive. Mm-hmm. And it became just fun. We dressed up. We did the cosplay thing. It was awesome. I got to see all these other artists selling their fan art. And I was like, I can do this. So for the price of a table, I decided to do the Northeast Comic Con. I'll be there July 22nd and 23rd. It's a 2-day event at the Hanover Mall. And go down to October, I'm going to be at Salem, and I can't wait for that. It's called Paroween. It's another paranormal, supernatural convention, and they're going to have all sorts of stuff like that. I'm in Salem, so how cool is that? So I'm really excited about those 3 I got lined up, and can't wait to, start this summer.
So each one of those has a different theme. So do you tailor your work to like different themes? Like one's going to be paranormal, for instance. One's
Right.
going to be more pop culture.
Right.
So
Yeah.
you tailor your work?
Right. Well, yeah, I kind of mix it like I'm doing fan art at all these shows. So X-Files is pop culture. It is paranormal. So I have one of those. I can show it to you.
Yes, if you'd like to show us.
All right. Let's see. We got Mulder and Scully right there. So I think that comes somewhere in between the paranormal and the pop culture. And I tailor my stuff along. I mean, I love paranormal stuff, sci-fi stuff. Ever since I was a kid, I remember going to the movies when I was like 7 to see Raiders of the Lost Ark or Gremlins or Alien. So I was a really young kid going to see all these crazy movies. And yeah, that just got me hooked from Jump Street. Since then, I've been just a nut for any kind of ghost, paranormal, sci-fi things. And it comes out in my work. You know, I enjoy it, and I enjoy painting it.
Because I noticed this about your work, that you do a lot of pop culture stuff, a lot of stuff that refers to film, to television, to movies, and things like that. So are those just things that you're passionate about? Is that why you select is that how you select your subject matter?
Yeah, big time. Yeah, some things I may not, some things I don't even like. I just like the idea of getting the reference material and just like getting ideas from that and putting it down.
You're interested in the process of taking that source material, making it something.
Right, and how it looks, how it pops, how it looks. I mean, I also, when I was at the shop, the boutique, I did a range of different things I would do. Houses, landscapes, a lot of landscapes, a lot of beaches. I have one of a winter house. Kind of reminds me of when I was a kid. My folks used to take us up to a chalet in Peru, Vermont. And this is kind of, you know, my black and white version of it. And I'm also going to use it at the con because it looks a lot like Misery and what was going on there.
Oh, I can see what you mean.
Yeah, I'll tell you a funny thing. The reason why you see so many black and whites is because I'm horrible at judging colors.
Now, this was something I was going to ask you about, because there's almost all of your pieces seem to be monochrome. I don't think all of them are, but there's a lot of them. They use blacks and grays and whites. They have a very, you can tell they're watercolors even if you didn't tell me that, because they have a very wet quality to them. They look very much like watercolors. I was wondering why it was that you didn't employ color more, because it's pretty easy to do with watercolors. So that must have been an active choice that you were making.
Right, it's hard. The red and the brown, the green and the green and the brown, orange and red and yellow. It's hard. When I part of what I do, I also do commissions. People will ask me to paint their pets. People ask me to paint members of the family. And I run into that with color on the face and on the skin. My wife she's a perfect judge of color and what looks right. So I'm always, honey, what do you think? Does this look like, you know, a good face? She's like, that's red. So, you know, it's got to be more brownish. You know, you mix the brown and the yellow and the white. But every now and then red seeps in because I got them all on my palette, red and brown. And then, oops, I dipped it and it kind of comes out red. But it's really hard for me to see that in color. So when I use colors, it's very basic. Here's a color one I have right here. This is Rob Gronkowski from the Patriots. As you can see, you know, I mean, it's easy for someone to get the color of the Patriots uniform, and so just gray, blue, football's brown, so it's kind of not much of a color mixing except for the skin a little bit. But another thing is sports too. I love to do. I love sports, and I also paint. I was doing sports theme for a while, so I would do pictures of Fenway Park or Patrice Bergeron, Bruins, Celtics, Red Sox, any kind of stuff like that. And those would normally be in color. But yeah, if anything I employ in color, it's going to be very basic because it's hard. It's hard. I had a family, I was painting their 2 kids, and it's just, the sketch I can bang out, and then when it comes to the color of the face, it was just like
Now, when you do portraits like that,
hard.
do you work from a photograph?
Yeah. Yeah, they'll show me a picture, and they're like, hey, can you paint a picture of my 2 kids for Father's Day? I'm going to give it to my husband.
Mm-hmm.
Sure thing. And
Now let's walk people through the process.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody wanted you to do a portrait, so they come to you with a photo.
Mm-hmm.
What would you do? What are the steps?
okay, first of all, if the photo's in color, I can, judge it with my eye whether I can get these colors down. If it's an old photo, if it's fainted, if the color's faint, I'll probably turn that into black and white. I'll make sure it's okay with the person. Sometimes it's not okay, and okay, thank you for your time. But, if the color, if it's a good photo print, yeah, I can work with that. I can also turn it into black and white, or if it's a black and white print, I can turn that into a black and white watercolor. I'll look at the picture, and there are a couple things I use on my phone to separate it more into shapes. So when I sketch it, I break it down into the shapes, where I want the shapes to go, and then when I paint it, it kind of just happens. I mean, I reference the picture, but sometimes when I paint it, it looks like crap. Mm-hmm. Other times, I paint it and I love it. So it's really a mixed bag because I never went to school for our art.
Would you consider yourself entirely self-taught?
Yeah, entirely self-taught. And that's kind of the way I go about everything else. I'm really not much of a student for classroom learning. I kind of like just to pick it up and learn on my own. Like any kind of stuff around the house even. I'll go on YouTube and see how that's done, and boom, I'll do it. But yeah, I kind of, so for the art, standpoint, everything is self-taught. Shading and stuff like that, I couldn't get right off the bat. Whenever I paint something, it kind of just, I go with where the brush strokes take me. I couldn't teach somebody how to paint, in other words. And I've had a lot of people come up to me and say, can you teach me how to paint? Can you teach my children how to paint? Sorry, but no, it's hard for me because I can just paint, and wherever the shade needs to go, the shadows, it just comes down on the paper when I paint. It's hard to teach somebody where the shadow goes and how this goes and how to sketch and shade. I couldn't teach that.
So if anybody who was trying to teach themselves how to paint like you are were to be watching this show right now,
Practice.
what would you advise for them? How should they start the process of learning? Since
practice.
you seem to produce quite a bit of work, and you're entirely self-taught, so I think they'd be interested in hearing.
Yeah, practice. That's how I learned. Like I said, I'm a substitute teacher in the Randolph system, and I've done a lot of work with the elementary school kids, and they ask me, well, how do I do this? I'm lost. This I can't draw this. This is awful. Practice. And plus, I tell the kids, it's not awful. It's art, okay? It may not look like that minion that you're trying to copy, but it's art. What you got there is your interpretation, so that's all you need to know. And if you want it to look exactly like that, you practice. You trace it. you copy it, and then pretty much, once you've copied it so many times, it just gets stuck up here. Like, I can't tell you how many times in the course of this year subbing for first, second, third, and fourth grade at the JFK, how many times I've drawn Teen Titans. And now I can just pretty much Teen Titans all day. It's fun. It's fun when you can, like, the kids can see you draw all these guys, and then you can impart your knowledge onto them. And yeah, so it's funny how, like, I love teaching and I love painting, but I don't want to teach anybody how to paint. But it's cool. I really enjoy it, and making money off it is even better. So some of the ones I hadn't shown you. Here's a nice black and white one. This is the American flag and the jets flying over Fenway. So this is like a Patriots Day thing where we got the black and white flag, and I could have done this in color. I could have used some really heavy blues and some bright reds, but using the black and white, it adds something, especially when you have a matte. A lot of my paintings I see, they don't pop, but when I put them around a matte, I'm like, yeah, there it is.
Do you cut your own mats, or do you
I go
plan the paintings to be the size of mats that you purchased?
Now I work with the matte size, but before I was just sketching it out and then, deciding whatever kind of matte, fits it. Usually it's a 5x7 matte or an 8x10 matte, and I'll do like a bulk order from Amazon, and I can get a great deal. I've gone to some of the art shops around. There's one in Stoughton, and they don't have the bulk, and they're a little more expensive. So I'm like, I'll just do the bulk Amazon. And
now, one thing when looking at this, because I'm imagining what it would look like if it were in color, and I do think that there's a point to be made for the way that shadow seems to dominate in your pieces. And I think that's, when you were talking about how you approach them as like shapes, I think that's emerges out of that process where you can see, I can see probably how you sketched this and how you planned where the actual shading would be. And it would be a radically different piece. It would have a very different impression on me as a viewer if this were color. Because all of these things it's so obvious to judge what the color would have been. So I think that's one thing that people should consider when particularly because you do commissioned pieces, and they're thinking about whether or not they should go color or black and white.
Right.
Because I feel with your black and white that your planning is much more meticulous with it.
Yeah.
It's I like the quality of the shadows to it.
I must go to Ocean State Job Lot and get the watercolor. They have watercolor box of the paints for $5. So you get like maybe like a point, like is like an 8 milliliter size of a tube of paint. And I work in these tubes, and tubes like will give you like a real bright, nice color. And for $5 at Ocean State, you can't beat that. I mean, you go to other places and they charge you a lot more. So you just, I work on a budget. I mean, so don't most struggling artists. But yeah, and I find myself using a lot of white. I mean, white is the color of the paper, but I just like to use the white. I like to get the off-white. I like to get the details, like the different shades of white.
There's no way you would get those same tones if you didn't use white.
Right.
So definitely, you probably go through. I'm imagining you actually do go through a lot of white in your work.
Yeah, and it's I like it. It's good. Let's see.
Yeah, let's take a look at that one.
This one?
Yeah.
This one is a tiger. So again, like I said, I do pet portraits.
Someone has a pet tiger around
No,
here?
no, not pet tiger, but it's just an example of, I take the same aspect with a cat or a dog. I did somebody had me do.
I can see from your label. Is this
Yeah.
Shiva from Walking
yeah,
Dead?
yeah.
I've been marathoning through Walking Dead lately.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I love that show. I had some Walking Dead pieces I did. Because again, I mean, it's pop culture and it's like, you know, you bit of zombies and paranormal. So, you know, I use that in my shows as well. But yeah, with the animals, more animals I'll do in color, and because they have the basic colors that are around the animals. And I had to do I did a collage. Somebody gave me 5 pictures, and they said, "Okay, well, I want you to paint a picture of my beagle." Okay. Here's 5 pictures. Okay. So I'm also now in charge of like setting up the painting. So there's an extra step that I have to do. Instead of like, here, can you paint this for me? Now I have to choose which one. I have to choose how I want to shape it on the frame. So I decided, hey, you know what? I'll use all 5 pictures. I'll put one in the middle and all the other ones around it. And, you know, and they all came out with the bright colors, and I colored the background black so they'd even pop out. And, yeah, and she loved it. And I did another painting of a basset hound. Same way, like you can see the shapes in the picture, and yeah, those like when there's basic colors involved, you know, I'll do those in color. But I've also donated my stuff to a lot of causes in Holbrook, different things done for the high school or the elementary school.
Is there ever kind of like there's a theme when you go to different shows? Is there ever like a theme for your volunteer work?
What do you mean?
Like, because I don't know what the volunteer work is. Is it something like if you're doing it for an animal shelter, would you paint animals, something like that?
Yeah, I would. Usually, you know, I have my work and I theme it towards like animals and stuff like that, whatever I have or will make. But moreover, I want, you know, work I want commissions from people. So I'll take like something, you know, up front. I'll take a little, like half of it up front. It's like $20 up front usually. I'll charge them $40 for it. So I'll take half of it up front, and, you know, they'll email me the pic, and, you know, I'll do that, and I'll get all their information. And of course, one person tells another person, and Facebook, and the whole social media thing, and, you know, word spreads. And I do quite a lot of business on Facebook from all the everything town pages.
Right.
Yeah, and
A lot of social media marketing.
yeah, it's become more profitable for me than having my stuff in a shop, where my stuff just sits there and I can't go to it. I can't. It just stays there, you know, where I can work out of my office. I got all my paintings. I can move them around however I need to. So, but anyway, yeah, social media has really been awesome to me, and yeah, it just keeps going and going, and you know, that's like my summer job, doing when I'm not teaching, because it's the summer. I'm painting, I'm doing shows, and the thing about these shows, you pick and choose what show, because I looked at Rhode Island Comic Con, Boston Comic Con, $350, $400, $500 for a table, a 6-foot table or a 10-foot. And I'm like, I can't do that. Northeast Comic Con came around and it was $100 for both days. Not just for one day, like the Boston or the Rhode Island one. Both days, and I jumped at that. And then the Paracon I'm doing in Middleborough, $25 for a table. You can't beat that. And then the other Paroween, I paid $50. So, you know, I've had some duds though. Let me tell you, those hurt. Putting $100, $125, and you live and learn too. I was at an outdoor show in Hanover, and I didn't have a tent. I didn't have an awning. It was like 95 degrees that day. And you can imagine what 95 degrees is going to do with painting that's sitting out there. It's going to get soaked in the bag. And, you know, I had some that I did on canvas, because they have watercolor canvas, believe it or not. I bought that at Ocean State as well. It's just, they get drip. They crack and everything. So, yeah, you live and learn when you do these shows. So now I have a tent that I have a display area, I have a tent, I have signage I got at Staples. So, yeah, now I'm ready to hit the ground run with the next show, so I'm prepared.
At a show, how many pieces would you have to sell to consider it a success?
Well, when you only pay $25 for the table,
The bar is relative.
well, I'll tell you.
So
I'll tell you. Like I was saying before. You know, I pick shows that I like. I want to like circulate. I want to move around. I want to meet people. I want to see what they have. It's not just like, you know, I'm at a craft fair with a bunch of LuLaRoe or Scentsy.
well, you're choosing your venues based on your work.
Right.
Based, you know, the shows that you'd want to go to are
Right.
the same shows that
So
are.
it's worth
that's
it for
the
me.
subject matter that's going to be reflected in your work.
So it's like paying a ticket. Plus, you know, you go behind the scenes and, you know, that stuff. So you take into consideration, you know, the amount they charge for admission. That cancels out with, you know, a part of what I had to pay for a table, and then, you know, you go behind the scenes, and I enjoy that stuff. So, hey, if I got, you know, $100, and then you pay $30 for an admission, and then, you know, you work in what you sell. But again, you know, I would like to make more than, you know, I paid for the show, obviously, but. You know, it depends. Some days are good, some days are not. So it's a mixed bag always with the craft shows.
Let's take a look at what else you've brought for us today.
Let's see. Here is another fan art I did of Elvis Presley, again in black and white. And of course, I mean, 50s, black and white was the way to go on TV, the older microphone, and again, this was something, I think I started it out in color, but I'm like, I'd rather do it in black and white, so I kind of was able to fix some of the mistakes and just make it more grays and stuff like that. But yeah, again, you know, with this one too, it was bigger. If I have a bigger piece of art, you know, I run it through the craft fairs and cons and things like that, it doesn't sell, I'll shrink it. This I had his whole like crushed velvet outfit here, the microphone was longer, his hair was more space up here. But, you know, I shrunk it down because, you know, it can be kind of a hassle to lug around a bigger one. And I figured, you know, I got a couple other ones. I did one of Bob Marley, Elvis. I have one of David Bowie. So, and another Beatles, and they're all the same shape. And so if somebody's going to buy this, they see I have all these other musical artists in the same size. So hey, they might want to buy more. I also
Try and standardize it so that so that people will be able to purchase them, and it'll be like the same framing for all of them.
Right.
They can set them up easier in their living spaces.
And if somebody wants to, I usually frame all my work when I do commissions. Michael's is the place I go. Cheap frames, nice frames though. Simple black frame. That's all it needs for one of these. But yeah, I also, like I was telling you before, I did one of The Walking Dead, but it was Glenn, Rick, and Daryl in black and white. But you know what, I decided, I kind of got a lot of space here. You know what, and it was an 8x10. So I'm going to cut it in half. And I'm going to cut Rick's face in half. So you have half of Rick's face, Glenn, the other half of Rick's face, Daryl. And I think that's a cool, to have both pictures up like that. I think that's, a cool effect. And again, you get creative, you experiment and see, oh, maybe, somebody might like that.
you start with those basic sketches, and then you start cutting them up to see how they can fit like that? Like how you might be able to create those new compositions like that
Right.
one?
Well, if I feel like, oh well, maybe I could do something else with it. It's just maybe it's yeah. You feel like some of them you just I don't know about that. Let's see what I can do. So when I was at the shop, I would have a piece out for months. Nobody would sell it. Nobody would buy it. So you know what? I'm gonna cut it in half. I had this giant picture of a crab on a beach. And then I cut it down so you get half the crab, beach in the back. I mean, it was a blurry background. It was in color, and it looked cool. Like the crab was like right there, and it sold. You evolve your paintings. I'm like, oh, maybe I could do it this way. And I'm not. There's no love lost there. I'm like, I wasn't that attached to it, so cut it up and see what happens. But yeah, it's always changing. Let's see. Oh, this is from the movie. Another fan art picture of Gremlins. This is a cute little mogwai. And I like this one a lot. I like the way I did the blacks and the grays because again, it pops. It looks just like the picture. So I really dig that one.
Now, in the amount of time that you've been doing this, how many paintings would you say that you've produced, roughly? I know there's no way that you've kept count.
I don't know, probably like 100.
100?
Yeah. And the thing is, when I charge for a painting on a commission, I'm like, okay, well, it took me a couple hours to sketch it, $10 an hour, and then to paint it. It just, some really take, like quick. I could just, boom, with the sketch. Others take a long time. It all depends. I mean, some can be really easy for me. Some not so much. I'll go back to them, a couple days. But I did this one of Edward Scissorhands, and it took me no time to sketch it. I mean, easy shapes, long, spaghetti, and then the face, very blocky eyes, and of course with the outfit, circles and rectangles. And, it took me no time with heavy blacks and grays around the face. It took me no time at all to get that done. And somebody saw it and bought it off my Facebook page. And another thing people like, I find, I leave some of the paintings I do, I leave this pencil marks in there. Because it's kind of like, it shows the process of the painting, where you have the pencil marks as well as the watercolor around it. So I've gotten a lot of compliments on that. So that's another area I'll explore leaving, because I always like erase the stray pencil marks. But sometimes, especially in Edward Scissorhands one, in the face he had like the stitches around the face, and where the pencil marks were, it kind of like fit, everything fit. So
you're going to try experimenting more with just leaving that graphite in there, just leaving the pencil marks?
Yeah, and it shows the process, and it's more than just a plain watercolor. It's like you look at it and you see, you see it differently every time. I'm a big Doctor Who nut, so there's a black and white TARDIS. So, yep, the black, heavy black, like pitch black here, the grays. And again, I've sketched more Doctor Who things and painted more Doctor Who things than I can tell you. It's just, I like that I grew up watching Doctor Who when I was a kid, and I've always liked it. So that's another inspiration for me. Let's see. Oh, Back to the Future. No, who doesn't like Back to the Future? Again, I can do cars as well. I've done commissions of like Daytona race cars and things like that for people. And yeah, I can get all the dimensions of the wheels, the back, the front, the sides. Color is harder. I had to do, I did a color one, and it was like yellow with shades. So when you mixed, you can't really mix black and yellow together because it comes out green. So it was a harder thing to do, but yeah, I made it work. Again, like vehicles, I can do. We saw animals, we saw vehicles, we saw people. So I pretty much, when somebody says, well, what can you do? I can do pretty much anything.
What might be interesting to see with your work, if you try experimenting with this, is using some other color than black, but not using any other colors. Just using like white and red, or white and blue, or something like that. See how that looks.
Well, I've done black and white and mixed in like one other color. I did the Stephen King piece. Stephen King, glasses, hairline, mouth, but you know, as the painting shaped, like I turned his mouth into like a typewriter, so it kind of looks like his hair looks like Cujo's mouth, and we have like the glasses kind of where it hangs, it kind of looks like the sickle from Children of the Corn, and then we have over here for his ears, like the balloon from It, you know? So it kind of, and the balloon, of course, what color is the balloon? Red. And what color is...
Just to accent it with that
yeah,
one color.
with the red, and then the Christine, of course, it was the right on top of the typewriter. So you can see the typewriter, and on top of that, you see the Gorilla Christine, and that's red too. So that was... but yeah, you mix that one color, like a yellow, I've used.
I saw that you had one more.
Yeah, let's see. Oh, and rest in peace, Adam West. Again, this is another black and white that I really like. I look at a picture, and you know, through the apps on my phone, it's shapes and it's more solid and less like detaily. So with this, you know, I like the negative white space along with this, and it kind of, he's coming out. There's not, you know, it's not filled in right here, so it's kind of, but again, you know, I mean, this is pop culture. He was an icon, and my son and I got to meet him on his last show before he passed. This was in the, I don't know if it was the last show before he passed, but it was in early spring over at the Northeast Comic Con. He was there with Burt Ward.
Oh, right.
Yeah, that was awesome. Such a fun guy. So, yeah, and...
So, people have seen some of your work, and they know that you do commissions. So, if they wanted some of your work, where should they go? They know that you'll be at those shows that you mentioned, but if they're not at any of those shows, how can they contact you?
Through Facebook, A Wujcik, A, so it's A, W-U-J-C-I-K, and his watercolors. So you type in that, you Google search A, W-U-J-C-I-K, and his watercolors, all one word, and you can come up with that Facebook page. Yeah, and that's where I do most of my work, through messages, through that. Yeah, I don't have a website or anything right now.
Well, that's great. Well, I want to thank you
Thank
for
you.
coming
This
over
is
today,
awesome.
for showing off your work.
Yeah, cool.
And I'll be in touch.
Awesome. Thanks, Steve. All right, take
Good
care.
to see you. So that was Aaron, and this is Steven Sarajian signing out for Passive Wrappings.